What's good, guys? It's Charlie ND here. Now, I know you read the title of this video, and you're probably wondering, Charlie, you almost died, bro? No, I didn't say I almost died. I said I could have died. There's a difference. So, y'all remember that poll I ran a while back? Well, yeah, this was the crazy night I was talking about. This was unequivocally the craziest night of my entire life, and the part where I could have died was just one of many things that happened. So, needless to say, this story's gonna be a long one. Grab some snacks, maybe some popcorn, or some Doritos, or beef jerky, I don't know what the hell you like to eat. Maybe carrot sticks if you're a goddamn nerd. Whatever, let's get into it. It's the night of October 29th, 2022, the Saturday before Halloween. I'm just chilling in my bedroom, doing whatever, and Laserboy hits me up and asks me if I want to go to a party. And I've talked about Laserboy a lot in previous stories, so you probably know who he is by now. Now listen, I don't got a whole lot in common with Laserboy at all, but you know, sometimes he hits me up wanting to go to parties, so usually I ain't doing much, so I just go with him. So I put on my Halloween costume, which consisted of a lab coat and goggles. Hey, it's Halloween, it's the one time a year I'm allowed to dress stupid. And Laserboy pulls up to my house in not his car, but his mom's minivan. I think his car was in the shop or something, I don't know. And I open up that door, and there are like a bunch of high school girls who I've never seen before. And I hop in the seat behind the driver's seat, and I'm just wondering, where the hell did Laserboy meet all these girls, bruh? I mean, it'd be one thing if they were our age, but they were all younger than us. They were 2 years younger than me and 1 year younger than him, so I don't know where he met him, but I guess they all somehow arranged to get a ride from him. And just to be clear, most of these girls were not his friends, and that became clear later. Anyways, Laserboy starts driving, and we just barely get off my street before things completely go off the rails. This one girl who had been indulging in some Smirnoff opens the van door while we're in motion and hops out and throws up everywhere. And immediately after that happens, she gets into a massive argument with all the other girls and runs away up my street. I did get a bit of the argument on tape, but I'm not going to share it here because I don't really feel comfortable doing so. But don't worry, you'll see footage later on. So here we are, standing in the middle of the street. This drunk girl is screaming at all her friends. They're all insulting each other. At one point, Laserboy tried to intervene and one of the girls started insulting him. I don't really think my neighbors appreciated having a bunch of screaming drunk people on their street. So eventually we came to the conclusion that me, Laserboy, and two of the girls would go to the party and the rest would all find their way home. Except, we didn't go directly there. Instead, one of the girls told us to go to a shopping plaza so we could meet up with 3 guys. Now, these 3 guys were like one of these wannabe gangs which are so prevalent here in suburban communities. Kids here got nothing going on, so they LARP as gang members because they think being from the hood is some sort of aesthetic or something. And these are the same type of kids who are always asking me for the N-word pass. So for the sake of this story, we'll call these guys Max, Braden, and Tyrone. Laserboy, upon seeing them, said, "Don't let them get into the van!" And of course, they made their way into the van, because one of the girls let them in. Now clearly Laserboy knew these guys were no good. I had switched seats and I was sitting in the seat behind the passenger seat. Braden came and sat next to me. Max and Tyrone went to the back and started talking with one of the girls. Braden was sporting a do-rag and he was sipping some Captain Morgan. Now look, I don't got a problem with people drinking Captain Morgan, but so many people only drink it because they think it makes them look cool, and this was no exception for Braden. It's like the go-to drink for people who are trying to look like thugs. Now, Braden introduces himself to me, and he's like trying to talk black in quotation marks, obviously trying to impress me or something. Like so many people have done that to me, I see right through it. Anyways, I can tell Laserboy's getting a bit overwhelmed, so I volunteered to take over driving. Laserboy accepted my offer, so I hopped out of my seat. I moved into the driver's seat, Laserboy moved into the passenger seat, and one of the girls moved into the seat I was sitting in. So I start driving out of this parking lot, and then I'm like, hold up, and I remembered I had drank an apple cider and a vodka cran earlier in the night. And even though I didn't feel drunk, with my level of driver's license, I wasn't allowed to drive if I had any alcohol in my system at all. So I pull over and I'm like, yo, can someone take over driving? And Max volunteers to take over. So he hops into the driver's seat and I hop into the seat behind the driver's seat. Now here's the thing. Max said he was sober. He wasn't sober. So Max takes the van out of the parking lot, turns onto the road. He turns on the radio, starts blasting music. And I could definitely tell something was wrong because he was speeding a little bit. So after this clip, Max turned onto a semi-rural, not that traveled road, and this is when everything goes to hell. As soon as we turn onto the road, this man floors it. And to give you an idea of this road, it has curves, it has trees, and it has hills and dips. Like, bro, what the hell are you doing? Slow down, you're gonna get us killed. And Braden's all like, it's okay, he knows this road. And in my head I was all like, how stupid are these guys? Just because you know a road doesn't mean you can drive recklessly, especially at night. Because like, what happens if a deer walks onto the road and you have to swerve to avoid it? This road had trees on either side, so if we went off, we were hitting one. Like, no doubt. Laser Boy was freaking out, and rightfully so, because keep in mind, this was his mom's minivan, and some wannabe thug was taking it on a booze cruise. So finally, this guy slows down and turns off the road he was on, and we drive right past the shopping plaza we were at. So basically, we had done a triangle route, and now we were back where we started, driving on the same main road, and we were no closer to the party we were going to. And Laser Boy is just yelling at Max. He's like, pull over now! You want me to call the cops? And then Braden reaches over the seat and hits Laser Boy. And then Laser Boy retaliates, and Braden's all like, don't hit me again. I will punch you out right now. And while all this is going on, Tyrone's just in the back with the two girls, and they're just chilling. And I'm not gonna bother giving them names because they're not exactly crucial to the story. So anyways, Max turns back onto that same road he was driving recklessly on, and sure enough, he goes at it again, driving super fast, and this time, he's laying on the horn, and he turned on the wipers for no reason. And this time, he turned onto this properly rural road that was like super narrow and had like basically all forest on either side, occasionally interrupted by like some farms. And this man was driving like a maniac.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Holy, it's such a dog. It's unreal, man. Was lit.
The clip makes it look like he's going slower than he actually is, but trust me, he was pushing the limits of that windy road. Throughout the entire ride, I think he topped out at like 90 kilometers an hour. And we were going over hills, and the stuffed animals that were on the dash flew right off. And throughout this whole thing, like, I actually thought I was gonna die. When we were going around the curves, the van, like, went over the yellow line, right? So there were moments where we were in oncoming traffic. At any time, a car could have came in the opposite direction and hit us head on. Or maybe, like I said, Max could have swerved to avoid it and hit a tree or something. And if that happened, then I'd be surprised if I only got hospitalized from that. For a brief moment, I was convinced that I was gonna die and my face was gonna show up on the news next to the faces of people who I wasn't even friends with. And that was gonna be my legacy. Another victim of drunk driving and poor decision making. But fortunately, I'm still here. I very well could have died that night, but I'm still here. Anyways, finally, after that ordeal was over, Max stopped the van and Laser Boy got into the driver's seat. But that's not where that story ends. Oh no, there was still a lot more to this night. So we pull up to where this party's at. And so for reference, this party is at the University of Victoria. So we parked in some little side street west of the campus, and we had to walk across the campus all the way to the residences, because that's where all the people were. And I should probably mention this now, but we planned to meet up with Jason, who I mentioned in a previous story time. So as soon as we hopped out of this minivan, Braden and Laser Boy start beefing for some reason. Braden was so drunk off this Captain Morgan, bruh. And meanwhile, I was bonding with Tyrone, because it turns out we were both from Ontario. He was from Brampton, I'm from Toronto, so that's kind of cool. So Laser Boy and I start walking towards this party, and for some reason, the other 4 people didn't follow us, which I thought was kind of weird. Anyways, after a few minutes of walking, we finally got to where everyone else was, and let me tell you, there was a ton of people here. It's crazy how crowded this place was, but I mean, it's Halloween, so I guess you gotta expect it. And you know, I can't lie, it was a pretty good time. Halloween is always fun. A few minutes after we arrived, Laser Boy started getting texts on his phone from one of the girls who was in the van with us. Apparently, she and some of the other people wanted to go home, and he was basically their ride, so he had to go. I wanted to stay at the party though, so Laser Boy and I mutually decided to part ways, and that was the last I saw of him that night. I don't know what happened to him after that, but hopefully nothing crazy happened. So after Laser Boy left, I was wondering, where the hell is Jason? and he texted me saying that he left the university to go to another party that was off campus. And in my head, I'm all like, why the hell would he leave to go to a different party? Like, all the people are already here, and wherever he went was probably just some lame house party. But reluctantly, I decided to go meet up with him. I realized that it would be faster for me to take the bus, so I headed to the bus exchange to take it just, like, one stop. But even though it was just one stop, it would have gotten me to the other side of campus way faster than walking could, so I decided busing was the way to go. And I already had a bus pass, so, I might as well use it. So there were a few people getting on the bus at the exchange, and while we were all lined up to get on the bus, I ran into one of my old friends from middle school. And I thought it was kind of cool, what are the odds of running into him? We got to catch up a bit, which was nice. He was wearing one of those, 70s inspired disco outfits. It kind of looked like this, except the shirt was the same color as the pants. I mean, it's a good look for a Halloween costume, I really like it. And there's this guy sitting near us, and I'd say he's maybe in his 60s. And he compliments my friend's costume. And my friend's like, oh, thanks. And then he says something like, back east where I'm from. I think he said he was from Sudbury or something. We would call people who dressed like that wiggers. I'm like, bruh, did this man just say what I think he just said? Yes, he just said wiggers, as in white, and then the N-word. And in case y'all have forgotten, I am of the black complexion myself. So this guy looks at me, and he's all like, don't worry, I would never say the actual word. And I was in such a state of disbelief, I didn't even say anything back to him, I just sort of looked at him. Now, I assume he was talking about people who, specifically white people who, sort of copy the clothing style of prominent black figures back then, like Michael Jackson. Well, actually, maybe not copy, but take inspiration from. But anyways, this 60-something-year-old guy who was on the bus with us, he then proceeds to say, anyways, you're dressed like what we would call a white, and then he just proceeds to say it, the hard R and everything. This man says the hard R in front of me on a public bus. And I was actually looking at my phone when he said it, and I instantly looked up. I gave him the biggest death glare ever, and before I even had the chance to say anything, my friend who was sitting next to me, he spoke up, and, he sort of came to my defense, and he said, it's not okay to say that word, I don't remember exactly word for word what my friend said, but he said something like, I know you probably weren't trying to be racist, but still, you should probably never say that word under any circumstances. And shout out to him, he had my back and everything. And it's a good thing he was there to sort of diffuse any potential conflict that would have arose otherwise. Let's just say things would have escalated if it weren't for his intervention. I wish I got to catch up a bit more with him, but like I said, I was only going one stop, so I had to get off shortly after that. And when I got off the bus, I was like, did that just happen? This night has been crazy so far, bruh. And it doesn't even end there. So I pulled up to this house party and I met up with Jason, who told me to meet him there. And Jason was cool enough to let me have one of the drinks in his backpack, so that was nice. Most of the people at this party were Indian, and Jason and I were one of the few non-Indian people there. And like I predicted, it was totally lame compared to what was going on at the other party. This house had maybe a couple dozen people, maybe somewhere 30 or 40 people, I don't know. Meanwhile, the other party had a sea of hundreds of people, so this was a massive downgrade. So after 15 minutes or so of being at this party, something went wrong. So Jason and I were chilling on this couch that was downstairs, and we were just talking and, just sort of chilling out. And then out of nowhere, these three guys come up to us and get all up in our face, and they're like, yo, which one of you guys broke that glass? There was this broken glass on the floor, and they were accusing one of us of breaking it. And one of the guys points to me and is like, was it you? And I'm like, no. And then they point to Jason. They're like, was it you? And he's like, it was broken when we got in here. And that was the truth. It actually was broken when we got in there. And these guys were pressing us hard, but we stood our ground because they didn't have anything on us. Not gonna lie, I thought they were about to beat us up. And that would have been a bad situation because not only were we outnumbered, but all of these guys were taller than us. Now look, if the situation calls for it, I'll defend myself, or any of my friends, but like, in this situation, we didn't stand a chance. I thought we were either gonna get kicked out of this party, or they were gonna beat the crap out of us, but surprisingly, they actually just gave up and left us alone. I was not expecting that. These situations usually don't diffuse themselves, but I was happy it ended the way it did. So a few minutes later, this kid comes in and he sits on the couch next to Jason and I could just tell something was wrong with him. And so I asked, "Yo, you good?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But he definitely didn't seem fine. So Jason was nice enough to give him one of his water bottles, and he drank it, and I could just tell this kid was going through it, like he was not having a good time. And sure enough, a few minutes later, he threw up. And remember those 3 guys from earlier? Yeah, they made him clean it up. Poor kid. So Jason and I stayed at this party for like 20 more minutes, and I did not enjoy it. There was no one there that I knew, except Jason, obviously, and the music was pretty lame, and I just overall didn't like it. For all my viewers who aren't in high school yet, or have just never been to a party, but they're really eager to start going, just remember this: no 2 parties are created equal. Pick and choose wisely which ones you go to, because that could be the difference between a terrible night and some of the best memories you'll ever make. So anyways, Jason and I returned to the other party, and I'm not gonna lie, at this point the booze was kinda hitting me. I had had a couple drinks, and I'm pretty light, so it doesn't take a lot for me. So nothing eventful happens the rest of the time we're at the party until it's time to leave. So it was around like 1 in the morning at this point, and I was gonna text my dad for a ride home, but Jason suggests something else. He suggested that we actually stay overnight at the university. Basically, he was suggesting we do the overnight challenge, which for those of you who don't know, it's when you go to a public place and then you sleep there and try not to get caught. And I actually agreed to do this, which is very out of character for me. But on this night, I was like, screw it, let's do the overnight challenge. So we planned to go into one of the dorm buildings and then find like some multi-purpose or rec room or something. You know, one of those rooms that has like microwaves and like a few sofas or chairs or something. Basically just a room to chill out in. So we were gonna try to get into one of those rooms and just sleep over. Now, I don't go to this university, but my friend does, so he was able to get us into one of the dorm buildings. And I do have other friends that go to this university and also have their own dorms, but I didn't want to bother them, so I just stuck to Jason's plan. Anyways, we found an empty room with some chairs and some sofas, and we got settled and we prepared to spend the night. So here we were, about to sleep on some uncomfortable couches, when suddenly something unexpected happened. 2 people came in, a boy and a girl, and they had some bags with them and some blankets, and they sat in the chairs next to us. Apparently, we weren't the only ones who had the idea of sleeping here. They explained to us that they got kicked out of their dorm building because someone in their dorm building put fireworks in the toilets in one of the bathrooms. This is absolutely insane. I'm gonna leave a link to this article in the description. I encourage all of you to read the article and watch that video because it cannot be understated how crazy this party was. What wasn't reported by the media, however, is how everyone in that building where the toilets exploded were kicked out and they weren't allowed back in. So to compensate them, the university gave them like this kit that had some bare essentials like soap and a toothbrush and toothpaste and all that. But I don't know where they were supposed to sleep. I think they opened up a gymnasium to let people sleep there, but I'm not sure. So anyways, this had suddenly turned into a sleepover with 4 people in this lounge. And shout out to the girl, cause she let me use her spare toothbrush and toothpaste to brush my teeth. And this toothpaste, it was clear and it came in this little bottle. I thought it was hand sanitizer at first. So yeah, whoever put fireworks in the toilet, you're a walking L, because you got all these kids kicked out of their dorms. Still though, I feel like the university could have handled it a bit better. So now it was actually time for us to go to sleep. So Jason had one of the couches all to himself, and I was on the other couch. And this was already bad enough on its own, because if I were to, like, extend my legs all the way, like, they wouldn't fit on the couch, like, between the 2 armrests. But I also had to share the couch with the guy, so he was in the sitting position, I was in the fetal position, and the girl got the chair all to herself. And also, one of them took the curtains off of the rack to use as a blanket. And I felt bad for them because they both had early mornings the next morning, so that was not going to be pleasant. And before we all went to sleep, they told us that if anyone asked why we were sleeping there, that we could just tell them that we were from their dorm building. And with that, after a chaotic night, we finally went to sleep. So the next morning rolls around, I wake up groggy and achy after sleeping for 5 hours on this uncomfortable couch. The guy and the girl are gone. I say good morning to Jason, and one of the janitors walks in, and she sees us, and she asked why we were sleeping in there, and we just stuck to the story and said that we got kicked out of our dorm building, even though neither of us had dorms at that university. And she actually bought it, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry that happened. Then she asked why the curtain was off its rack, and Jason just said it was like that when we arrived. So after that, I decided I wanted to just go home and shower and eat breakfast. So I said goodbye to Jason, and I took the bus home while reflecting on what was the craziest night of my life. So the moral of the story is, don't put fireworks in toilets, don't call people the N-word, and do not, under any circumstances, drink and drive. Seriously, I cannot understate how fortunate I am that nothing bad happened to me. It would have taken less than a second for something to go wrong, and I could have been hospitalized or worse. And I wouldn't be here to make videos for you guys, and I'm so glad I am. So thank you for watching all the way to the end. Your support means the world to me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and be safe out there. Bye, guys.